Hey guys, I'm Matt from Pop Review the Movie Podcast, and I'm just in front of a camera talking about movies. But today, it's October, it's the spooky season, it's Hocus Pocus 2 time. I have a Christmas shirt on for a Halloween review, so sorry. So the long-awaited sequel finally came out, almost 30 years later. The original cast came back, at least Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker. It was fun. It was good. It was a good follow-up to Hocus Pocus, the original, but it wasn't as good. And there's reasons. I feel like instead of just making a sequel that comes out 2 years, 3 years later, I feel like Hollywood's going to start to realize that like people love nostalgia. And they're already doing this with like Jurassic Park Dominion, Spider-Man No Way Home. They bring back these people from like years later to a fresh new audience and an old audience. And I feel like Hocus Pocus 2 is one of those people, or was one of those films. And like there is going to be a lot more. And there already was a lot. But like I feel like now like you'll get a lot more like streaming ones. Like saying like, oh, they're bringing this back for this sequel on Netflix or Hulu or stuff like that. Because it was fun. It was nostalgic. It had its problems, but I think when you had those like kind of like kid eyes over it, as I cover my face, you had these kid eyes that just are like, it's good to be back in this world. But yeah, so this as this movie was so much fun, it did have its flaws. The original, what was great about it had this balancing act of being kind of goofy, but also being creepy. It had moments of creepiness, and I think that's why people like love it so much. Still, it was an adult movie. It's one of those movies where it's like it's for kids, but really, it's kind of things are going over kids' heads. And I think this one, do I want to say it was Disney-fied? Maybe. Like it was, I feel like Disney, because I feel like a lot of things like that happened in the 90s, early 2000s. They make these things that are so like not Disney, or like they have vibes that like you're not associated with Disney. And then they come back and then it's kind of like, that felt more Disney. And not in a bad way. Like it's not a bad thing. But I feel like this was a lot more goofier. This was a lot more funnier of a story or of a movie compared to the first one. Like they hung themselves in the first one, which they did show in this one, but they hung themselves in the first one. They like in the scene in the bedroom when they're hiding behind the closet, like in the scene where like Sarah Jessica Parker's flying over, like pretty much like kidnapping a bunch of kids, singing the song. I'll take thee away. There was much more eeriness to it. And this one had a lot more, it had like the slightest slivers of eerie, but it was more goofy. And like that bothered me. And that was like, as I was watching it, that was really my only problem with it. But then kind of like after a day, like thinking about the movie, I was like, to be honest with you, like that was 1993. So like witches coming back in that time, like that would have been like creepy. Now in 2022, like you would be thinking to yourself, well, there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that. And it just makes it a lot more goofier. Like the Sanderson sisters in 2022 are a lot more goofier. So I think that is why the story was goofier, just because the world we're living in. I do think they could have put more creepiness into it. Would it have worked? I'm not sure. But I think they definitely could have tried to put it in more. Because it was fine to be goofy, but just have a little more ominous tone to it. And like the look of it had it. It's just like the actual like story didn't. Now like another like little like nitpicky thing I had with it was like in the beginning of the movie they kind of show more about the Sanderson sisters, and I think that was great. I think that's what a sequel's for. A sequel's meant to be the same but different, and like just like the goofy tone instead of an eerie tone, I think like, you know, it's a different movie, so whatever. And also like they had to give more, you had to explain more. So they explained the Sanderson sisters, no problem with that. But the people who they cast, I feel like they were like, be exactly like Bette Midler, be exactly like Sarah Jessica Parker, and be exactly like Kathy Najimy. Because like it was almost to the point where I was like, it's a caricature. And I know they're a caricature now, but like as kids they weren't always like that. And so like her like being like with the movements and stuff as Bette Midler, I'm like, you could have toned it down a little bit. But besides that, really, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I laughed a lot. Even though it was like a fish out of water, the first story, like I said, it was kind of more eerier and like it was a lot more like creepier. And I'm repeating myself, but hey, what's new? But now, being in 2022, the world's different. And like there's a lot more jokes to be made about them being in this world, because now there's like a lot more technology, a lot more this, a lot more that. It felt more like The first one felt like, I'm going to compare it to this. The first one is like Halloween Town 2. Keep it in the Disney family. And then the second one felt a little more Halloween Town 3. To me, still great, still good, still fun. But the original had something that I feel like it was just missing something in the new ones. Like I said, they could have fit a little more creepiness into it. I think that's where the story had to go. And I think that creepiness would have been like, it would have hit it out of the park. Because like, what else are you expecting? You're expecting just like a fun time. I'm not expecting an Oscar winner, and like this wasn't it, but I just had a great time. And I thought the introduction of the new characters worked well, and it made sense why no one else was in it except for the Sanderson sisters, and it made sense why they were back from the first one. So it's just those kind of like little things here and there that would have like elevated it more and more. But here we are. It's out on Disney Plus already, so there's nothing you're going to do. There's nothing they're going to change about it. And the thing with the second one is, even though it's great and it's fun, the first one's still better. And the same goes for the music. I thought the music was fun. I was bopping my head along. But the first one, because it had that kind of creepiness to it, it just worked a little better for the movie. And I'm glad they had new music in the second one. It's a common theme. I liked that aspect of the first one compared to the second one. One of the big things that I was like trying to think about after watching the movie is that there's an end credit scene, as there is in everything now, teasing a third movie. And it got me thinking, like, do you need a third movie? One, this was a great nostalgic, fun ride of a movie. Will it have that same effect for the third one? Or do you only get it for the second one? That's a question that they're going to have to risk. And I kind of have to think it's going to run out, because you can only do the same nostalgic trip so many times. Until now, you got to be like, it's got to be different. And also, like, do the Sanderson sisters come back? And if they do, isn't it kind of just the same movie as the second one? Or are they going to make it a little more creepier to kind of make it different than the second one and kind of go back to the first one and make it a good trilogy? Or do the Sanderson sisters not even come in? And it's about the new group of girls as the coven, and they face a different evil. But then it's like, why even make that movie? So a sequel is very tricky right now. And I'll watch it. You know what? Anything from my childhood. I love a good nostalgic ride. Like, that's why I love Disney, because it's one big nostalgic company a lot of the times. And I feel like I'm going to watch it, but is it going to be good? Because right now, the original had a like rotten score with critics, but a positive score with audiences. And a lot of people love that movie. And the sequel had the opposite. The critics liked it more than the audiences. There's a rotten audience and a fresh critics. And I think the first one's good. The second one's good, just not as good as the first one. Where does that leave the third one? Are both just going to hate it, or both just going to love it? Is that a risk to take and like ruin these two things that you just did? You waited 29 years to make a sequel. Are you going to ruin it within like 3 years to get another one out? I'd like to know if you guys are going to watch it, because I was just like, how is this sequel going to work? This is great for the second one, that there's very few criticisms for me. It was fun. But now the third one, you're opening yourself up to a whole can of worms. So that's where we are right now. Is there going to be a third one, or should we just leave it at the 2? I think we should just leave it at 2, because I think the first one's great and the second one's fun. The second one, I would give the second one an 8 out of 10. I really would. It's such a fun movie. I laughed. I enjoyed myself. Like, what else can you ask for these type of movies? I think it's going to be a huge hit for Disney Plus. We'll have to see, because I saw so many people saying they were watching it, because you have people like me who saw the original as a kid, and now you have kids, so you have just like double the audience. And you have the parents of the kids who saw it as kids. It's a lot of people who are seeing it. So yeah, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Let me know what you thought about this movie. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it nostalgic for you? Did it do nothing for you? Did you laugh? Did you get scared? Tell me your thoughts. I told you mine. Tell me yours down below in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Smash that like button. I hate that saying, but I'm going to say it now. And cheers.